Hey there, it is so good to have you with me tonight. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for making time to be here. I know there's at least a dozen other things you could be doing tonight, so just really important that you made the time to show up. I want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share the video if you watch this on the replay. I'm going to launch with some very probing questions, and your answers will guide the depth of information I share. I'm not going to read these questions, these answers out loud as you send them in, because they are very probing, and you might feel a little self-conscious if you have your answers read with your name. So I'm just going to read them privately. You can send them to me in the chat box, and I will make sure to take them into consideration as we are going through the evening. So the first question I want to ask you is, why did you decide to come to this web class tonight? What are you hoping to gain from spending this time with me? Are you looking for more information? Are you looking to figure out whether you think iridology is worthwhile studying? Are you looking to vet me as a teacher to see if I sound like I'm credible and to see if this looks like something you'd want to do? I want you to drop your answers in the chat box. Maybe you're here for another reason. Why did you decide to come to this class tonight? What are you hoping to gain from spending this time with me tonight? I'm going to give you just a moment to put that answer in so that I can take your answers into account while I am doing the rest of the presentation. This looks like my screen sharing is paused. Just hang on. Let me just redo the screen share because that looks like it wasn't working. Let's do the share again and make sure we've got it up. There we go. That looks better. Okay. So the next probing question I want to ask you is, what has been your biggest challenge or obstacle in learning iridology? So maybe you're brand new to iridology and you're finding some challenges just even getting started with it. Or maybe you've already taken classes, but you're having challenges learning more, taking it where you want to go. I'm curious about what your challenges are and how I can help you with that. So if you want to take a moment and drop that in the chat box, I'll give you some ideas of things that I hear a lot. I frequently hear the challenges are finding a quality course, finding training I think I can trust, finding a teacher who sounds credible. There is so much information out there, and a portion of it is not up to date, and it conflicts with the latest research. This creates confusion for people who are looking for solid training, right? I love doing these web classes and sharing modern information with you and giving you a chance to vet me as an instructor. I think it's really important for you to be able to vet your instructors. In our class tonight, I can only scrape the surface in the hour that we have. So I look forward to doing what I can in that time and to giving you a chance to ask questions. Remember that to learn iridology at a professional level takes hours of training, practice, mentoring, feedback. It's not something you learn in a weekend. So if what I share with you today catches your interest, stay with me until the end, and I'll let you know how you can learn iridology at a professional level. Just like my student, Tricia Colstow. She said, I just wanted to say that as a new student who has worked in iridology before and is a certified iridologist through another teacher, I have learned more in the first 2 lessons of your dynamic iridology course than in all of my previous iridology training. I'm so glad that I decided to sign up. I know that after taking this course, I will be able to offer my clients the best and most up-to-date knowledge. And Nicole Richards, herbalist, said this, I have previous training in iridology. So if you've already got training and you're thinking, what would another course do for me? Just listen up here. She said, I've got previous training in iridology, and with that training, I would spend hours on each iris analysis, writing up reports which would be broad and unfocused. All that has changed since learning dynamic iridology with Judith Cobb. I recently had a family of 4 come in. It would have been overwhelming for me in the past, but I was able to easily do all 4 iris assessments and create focused programs for each person in a comfortable afternoon. All right, so just a reminder as we move forward that now that I know what your obstacles are and why you're here, this information that I'm sharing with you is for your education only. It's not meant to diagnose or prescribe, and you are responsible for any results, good or bad, that result from using this information. This is an interactive class, and so the more you interact with me in the chat box, the more information you'll get out of me. That means the converse is true as well, right? So just saying, just saying. When we do iridology, we look at the iris, the sclera, and the pupil. They each give us different information. When we look at the pupil, we are looking at size and shape. And today we're going to do a high-level overview of some of the key pupil indicators. So if you're ready to look at some pupils, give me ready in the chat box. And as you're doing that, as we talk about pupils, see if you know anyone who fits any of these categories. All right. It looks like you're ready. This is so good, so good. Let's dive in. When we see pupils that are very small, this is called meiosis. That is the ophthalmological term for small pupils. And so what we want to be aware of is that 2 things with this. Number 1, we always want to assess the pupils in normal light, not from a photograph. Remember, when we're looking at eyes that have been photographed, we've got bright light shining in those eyes. And what does bright light do to the pupils? It shrinks them down. And so we never truly assess meiosis from a photograph. We need to see this person's eyes in normal room lighting. We need to know how the pupils respond on average with most of our clients in that room lighting to have that idea of comparison. When we have people who have small pupils or have myotic pupils, we know that their parasympathetic nervous system is running the show. They want to always be relaxed. Their parasympathetic nervous system is saying, chill, just keep it calm, just chill, just, stay calm, stay calm. But what that means is these people want to be in control of everything in the universe. They're not easygoing and happy-go-lucky and let things happen and let things just blow on past. These people are patting down the waves on the ocean in order to try to keep everything calm just the way they like it. Now, if you are interested in learning more, I'm just going to drop a link in the chat box. This link is where you can purchase a map of pupil information, right? A chart of pupil information. So that is in your chat box right there. All righty. So these people like to be in control of everything. So when you see small pupils, when everybody else has average sized pupils, you know you're looking at someone who is functioning in parasympathetic, right? Here's another one. Again, we are using photos because it's really hard to get a live person here that's parasympathetic, and with the bright lights that I use with this, their pupils would go small anyways. So again, we always want to be assessing these pupils from normal room lighting. If we're taking photos, we also need to remember that our darker eyes that we're working with mean a slower shutter speed, which means more light hitting the eye so we can see more detail. That's going to constrict the pupil even more. So we're not using these photos in the clinic to assess meiosis. I would be taking these photos to look at other iris things, to look at other sclera things, to look at pupil shape. But as far as pupil size, I'm going to turn around and look at my client face to face, who would be sitting right back there in the black chair. I'm going to have that conversation with them. So again, these people live in that parasympathetic nervous system. They want to be in control. And if they are not in control, if someone dares to make a little wave on their ocean that they're patting down all the waves on, they are going to get stressed. They just need the world to be calm. So I want you to think back to your anatomy and physiology and ask yourself, what could this affect? What could this look like? If you had someone who had myotic pupils, who was living in the parasympathetic mode, what are you likely to see? What will their behaviors be? One of the things that I've noticed with this is these are often people who are very introverted. The only way they can control everything in their universe is if they don't have a lot of people around them, right? So they might be married, they might have a few children, but they're probably not going to have 5 or 6 kids. And they're not social in a big way. If they're going to be social, it'll be going out with 1 friend or 2 friends, or it'll be the person and the spouse going to another couple's home for dinner. It'll be small things. They're not likely to be comfortable in big settings with lots of people. The exact opposite of that is mydriasis. So mydriasis means enlarged pupils. And you can see how big these pupils are. This is common in children. When we think about this, this is the sympathetic nervous system running the show. Sympathetic means fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? That is that intense response to stress and things that are happening. And so with this, when we think about that with young children, so much of the world is new to them. So they are always a little bit on edge, always wondering what is the next thing. Now, some children are more comfortable in new settings. Many children are not. They need that slow and gentle introduction to a new caregiver, a new school, a new friend, a new home. They need time to adjust. So when we've got someone who has large pupils, their eyes are going to be a little bit sensitive to light. So if you're shooting photos of their eyes, you're going to need to turn your light down, which may mean speeding up your shutter speed. And that might mean that your images are dimly lit like these ones are, because again, that bright light will irritate their eyes. People who are running in the sympathetic mode tend to be very generous. And they also, again, have some of those nervous system symptoms. Now, what would you expect to see with someone who was always a little bit in fight or flight? What would you expect to see? I'll let you type some answers into the chat box. I've already mentioned one is that they're very generous. They tend to be quite open about things. Yeah, we're going to see maybe some things like they're a little bit nervous, a little anxious. They respond quickly. Yes. When something has gone wrong, they respond very quickly and usually in a very big way. These are your drama queens, oftentimes, right? When something goes wrong, they magnify it. They often need to talk it out. And after they've talked it out, it brings them back down to earth and they're okay. So what body systems does this affect? Let you type some of that in here as well. What body systems would that affect? Okay, the adrenals. We're going to see maybe some blood pressure kinds of things. I want you to think about the sympathetic response and how that impacts the body. When you're in a sympathetic response, it shuts down digestion, doesn't it? That could be a big thing. It often inhibits sleep. You tend to be a little edgy. The large pupils also increase peripheral vision. This is a survival mechanism. Right? This is so that if you've got a saber-toothed tiger chasing you, you don't have to turn your head quite so far to see that tiger behind you. Right? So this is definitely a survival mode. These people are on the alert. Now, this also happens when someone is looking, when this person is looking at someone they love but the pupils don't usually get quite this big. It'll be just a subtle pupil enlargement, kind of like I want to drink in all that I'm seeing with this person. These are slightly mydriatic, so slightly enlarged. And so this again is someone who might respond a little bigger under stress. And that, if they're spending a lot of time doing that, what's that doing to their adrenal glands, to their adrenal resiliency? Because they're always waiting for the next thing, right? They're waiting for the next shoe to drop, the next crisis to happen, the next uh-oh call. Now, this is a fellow in his late 20s. He's almost 30, and he works as a property manager for the not-for-profit housing organization here in Calgary, which means that every other week he's on call 24/7. So he does his daytime hours, and then he has the emergency phone, and he has to respond to the phone calls. So it could be a tenant's water tank is leaking. It could be someone's heat has gone off. Sometimes he gets the call saying a tenant who lived alone has passed away. And this young man has to then contact all of the right people to go and deal with the situations. And often he has to go on site because he's the key holder. He's got the keys to get into every property to let the helpers in. So, so he's always ready for a fight, flight, or freeze. Fortunately, he's been at the job long enough that there's not much that ruffles his feathers anymore, and he just takes it all in stride, which is a really good thing. Now, for those of you who might be new to me, my name is Judith Cobb, and I love teaching iridology. I am a certified iridologist and a certified iridology instructor. And my school, Iridology Education, is now a sanctioned or approved school by the International Iridology Practitioners Association. IPA requires iridologists and instructors to upgrade every 2 years. And what that means is that we have to have proof of doing CEUs. So what that means is that we are constantly taking courses, constantly upgrading. And every 2 years when we renew our credentials, we get a new badge. So these are just my latest badges. In 2022, I was given the Instructor of the Year award from IPA. And in 2024, I was given the Iridologist of the Year award, which those things both surprised me because I'm just doing what I love, right? I am also a professional member of the Canadian Association of Holistic Nutrition Professionals and the Canadian Association of Natural Nutritional Practitioners because I have training in nutrition and training in herbs. So I am also a professional member or a registered herbalist, as they like to call it, with the Alberta Herbalist Association. So when I teach iridology, I always incorporate some herbs, some nutrition, things like that to get my students thinking about what they already know. How would they integrate the knowledge they already have? I started studying holistic health in 1979 when I was just a very young adult. I started doing clinical work in 1981. I've studied iridology under 8 different instructors, 3 different styles. And I am one of only 10 level 3 certified iridology instructors in the world. And most of the 10 certified instructors are not actively instructing. Okay. Over the years, I've written many books, and you can find a list of the certified instructors on the IPA website, which is iridologyassn.org. Over the years, I've written many books that were self-published and self-distributed, so they're not available anywhere, probably not even on old book sites because they were self-published. And most recently, things like Pregnancy Naturally, the Herbal Birth Kit Handbook, Healthy Kits Naturally, The Essential Guide to Nature Sunshine Products, Biokinesiology and Color Therapy Level 1 and 2. And the only book that is still available is the Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology textbook, and it is available to my students. I've designed and taught many different classes, including prenatal classes and herbal courses, and lots of different iridology courses. So if you're interested in learning more iridology than what we do today, please stay to the end, and I will give you information on how to do that. Let's do some more. Ellipses. When you look at this eye, can you see, let me rephrase that. When you look at this pupil, can you see that it is slightly oval? The axis of the oval is going this direction. So this is a left iris. This is a left oblique. When we see an oblique ellipse, it suggests an increased risk of bronchial issues, amongst other things. So in order to assess the ellipses correctly, you must know whether you're looking at a right eye or a left eye, and you must know the direction of the ellipse, because different directions give us different symptoms. I would also want more information. Now, this fellow is a type 2 diabetic who takes metformin and is not willing to do any dietary work. We met for one appointment, and when I started talking about diet, he's in his mid-60s. His answer was, "Oh, my wife takes care of all of that." And as we reviewed his diet, I was thinking, his wife could do a better job, right? And so, since he was taking metformin, he thought everything was under control and he didn't want to do anything more. So that's okay. That's his decision, right? That's his decision. My job is to educate. My job is not to browbeat, right? Okay. Here's another ellipse. Can you see that we've got a slight lengthening going this way again? So this is, did I say that was a left iris? This is a right iris. I messed that up. This is a right iris because this is a left iris, right? And so here we've got the left oblique. Here we had this is still a left oblique, but it's in a right iris. And this is a left oblique and a left iris. So again, means a different thing because it's the oblique in a different direction. We sometimes have flattenings. So when we look at this, can you see that it looks like somebody sat on the top of this pupil and somebody squished in on this side kind of like, and pushed up on it? The position of the flattening shows the nerve feed challenges with organs that are adjacent and opposite. So we need to be looking at this area, and we need to be looking at this area for this flattening. So this eye suggests, first and foremost, pituitary and adrenals and kidneys. And when we've got this, it's also suggesting bladder and lungs. Now, this is a client who has asthma. That makes perfect sense. When you follow the biochemistry of asthma, we've got elevated acid, which this person, because of their eye color and then possibly because of their diet and because of what we see in the digestive zone, very prone to creating too much acid. Asthma is one way of the body clearing an excess of acid, right? And if the kidneys are not able to clear the acid, the lungs will take the excess and clear it. Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat box if that made sense. Fantastic. So good. So good. I'm glad this is resonating with you. Here again, we've got flattening here and a flattening here. And so when we look at this, this again is a left iris. And with this being a left iris, we have an inferior medial flattening, which is pancreas and liver. And we have an inferior lateral flattening, which is ovary, as some of the organs that are directly involved. And this is a client who has PCOS. Her doctors had not yet diagnosed it, and I couldn't say she had it, but every one of her symptoms fit perfectly, and she's got some other markings in her eyes that add to that assessment that she likely has PCOS, which when menstrual cycles are 8 weeks apart, that's a dead giveaway that she probably has PCOS, and that is what she was up against. And so when we understand, again, the physiology of PCOS, we understand how the pancreas and the liver impact the ovary and mess the hormones up and mess the menstrual cycles up, right? So you can begin to see how understanding flattenings adds an understanding to what's going on. Remember, these flattenings also teach us about spinal alignment. So what that means is when I see a pupil that is not round, I want this client to be doing some very intense work with the spinal care practitioner of their choice, whether they prefer an osteopath or a naturopath or Dorn therapist, whomever. I want them doing it, and I want them doing it with enough intensity that we can begin to get a permanent adjustment holding in that spine. I can offer the chemical support by suggesting diet and supplements. We also need the structural support here. Does that make sense, that we have to approach this from two angles in order to get the job done properly? Here again, we have, oh good, it's making sense. This is so good, so very good. Again, here we have in the client's right eye a superior lateral flattening, which correlates to pancreas. We have a superior medial flattening, which also correlates to pancreas, and an inferior medial flattening, which also correlates to pancreas. Now, this is a client who's been with me from the very beginning. She was one of my very first clients 45 years ago. And most recently, about 5 years ago, when she started coming back in, they cycle in and out, clients do, and that's just fine. She had elevated hemoglobin A1C, elevated triglycerides, and elevated cholesterol. So we note in her eyes, not just the flattenings, but that she has an abundance of liver pigment in her eyes, which tells us the liver wants to be a problem, wants to be a troublemaker. We see the beginnings of a lipemic diathesis that says liver enzymes have likely been out of balance for quite a while, and that the liver enzymes are likely messing with that blood chemistry with the lipid panel. So we started working on all of this, and we were making some really good progress. Now, the flattenings weren't changing and the lipemic diathesis wasn't changing, but her lab numbers were changing. And that was what we absolutely wanted to see happening first, because that will be the first thing to change. As we got this changing, then the recommendation was to be doing the structural work as well. As we were doing this, she ran into some family challenges that were very emotional for her. And in her case, I believe that was the trigger for the heart attack she had. She did survive, but because of that, it's been a bit of an uphill battle, because as you know, when someone's had a heart attack, the doctors recommend a truckload of drugs. And even though this client trusts me implicitly, there is that fear element of all of these drugs, how they affect the body. What can we do alongside that to strengthen the body rather than just control things? So, we're working to get around some of the emotion of the risks that the drugs pose as well with her. So pupil shape can be dynamic, or aspects of it can be inherited. This is just a taste of what we know about the pupils. In the dynamic iridology course, we spent an entire 2.5-hour lesson talking about pupil shape, because it is such an important thing for us to know. So, if you want to learn more about iridology, and you probably do because you're here, you probably want to do, and some of you suggested this, you want to be able to do faster assessments. You already know iridology, like some of the people we mentioned earlier, some of my students. You want to be more accurate. Maybe you've learned the Jensen style and you're feeling like it's not quite as precise as you want it to be, much the way I felt way, way back. You want to be able to build better and faster rapport with your clients, earn their trust really quickly so you can dive deep. And you want to eliminate whatever questionnaire you give them, all of those shotgun pattern questions that nobody likes filling out. Maybe you want to eliminate that and just have your release form. Iridology can help you achieve all of these. The Dynamic Iridology Assessment System for Health Professionals course is the only live, online, fully mentored course for nutritionists, herbalists, naturopaths. Think of that as anyone who's got a college-level anatomy and physiology course under their belt, who want to streamline their clinical work without sacrificing client care. So they can stop working unpaid overtime to develop client programs. I used to do that all the time, worked overtime to create the programs. You can stop overwhelming your clients with too much information in the program. That clients are going to get lost in that, right? It'll help you to create programs that will increase client compliance because you will be able to laser focus on not just the issue they have, but the root problem behind the issue. And that will lead to better success with your clients and long-term retention for your clients. Like the client I mentioned who's been with me for 4.5 decades. So the next go round, the next cohort of dynamic iridology is starting on January 29th. If you are a health professional who already has college level anatomy and physiology course completed, maybe you're a nutrition coach and you had to do an A&P course as a part of that, or a herbalist where a separate A&P course was required, or you're a chiropractor or a massage therapist, a naturopath, an RN, an MD, an RHN, and you want to add iridology to your skill set, then I'm going to give you another link in this chat box because this will give you a little more information about the course. And you will see in that link also an invitation to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me to talk about the course, to talk about your goals, and to see if this is a good fit. If you don't already have the A&P course under your belt, shoot me a note and I'll send you a link to the A&P course that I recommend. So you can start there, get enrolled, and get ready for the dynamic iridology cohort. You would have time spending about an hour a day to get that A&P course finished in time to join us for the January 29th cohort. So our registration is open. We're in a soft launch phase right now, which means it's open to people who come to these web classes. We haven't started marketing this next cohort to the masses yet, but that will be starting soon. So if you want to make sure you get one of the 10 available seats, we want to have a conversation pretty quickly. Michelle Davies, who is well trained, look at all of the certificates she's got. She's also a certified iridologist. She was in my course. I asked her, why did you enroll in dynamic iridology? She said, I wanted the latest info from an experienced practitioner that has used iridology in nutritional practice for a long time. Having my classroom at home allowed me to have all my charts and books by my side and made it easier to have an awesome sharing and caring teacher, made it the best. Judith helped me better my nutrition iridology practice. I recommend her courses to everyone. Now, Michelle had come to me having certified 3 levels under another iridology program. But that program, while it had good information, didn't give her what she needed to be able to apply it in clinical work. So I focus on teaching the nuts and bolts, but I also make sure that we teach the how to apply it. Stephanie Morgan, who has a master's degree in education, when I asked her, why did you enroll? She said, I'd seen enough of instructors online to know you were the best teacher, the way you organize info, check for understanding, and coach your students. Other instructors know their stuff, but you have the heart of a teacher. I wanted to graduate with understanding, not just knowledge. And then just later on, she posted this lovely testimonial for me. I just have to praise my teacher for a minute. Those of you who know Judith from videos already recognize she's an amazing instructor. What you may not realize is that students and graduates have access to Judith and training videos and alumni even after the class is finished. She's a rare find in under promise and over deliver. I'm so thankful I was led to her website, and you can see other students that I've had that agreed with Stephanie's comments. So what is included in this course? Let's take a look. 20 2.5-hour live webinar classes. We meet once each week for 2.5 hours. And there are 2 extra 1-hour group mentoring sessions per month. These are optional. They are open to my students and my graduates, including my certified graduates. These extra sessions are where we talk about the business of iridology. It's where students can bring cases they're working on. It's where they can talk about anything they need to talk about when it comes to iridology. Do they want to buy a camera? How do they know what camera to buy? Who would I recommend? Right? We talk about anything to do with iridology in these mentoring sessions. We also have, you also get your textbook. It is a digital downloadable book and fully illustrated, beautiful textbook. This is the book that I said is available to my students earlier on. You'll also get 45 pages of cheat sheets, right? This is your study guide. This will help you when you're even working with a client to be able to, if you've forgotten something, to look something up very quickly. Recordings of each of your class sessions and mentoring sessions are also available for each of my students in each cohort. We have small class sizes. I don't take 20 or 30 people in a cohort. That would be overwhelming for me to mentor that many students at once. So I keep my class sizes small to make sure that each student receives the type of attention and care they need to be successful. There are also several opportunities throughout the course and for 10 months after the course for students to request one-on-one meetings with me as individual mentoring, especially to prepare them for the certification process. So if this course sounds like something you want, then I invite you to book a call using the link that you will find in that last link that I just posted. So that last link I posted, the course-info link, last link I posted, will give you information about the course, but also has an invitation to book a one-on-one Zoom meeting with me. So here we are again, just reminding you that the next session is starting on January 29th. And if you are thinking you want to get in on this maybe, and you want more information, you've got your A&P already under your belt, then use that link. Let's have a meeting. Let's get you enrolled while there's still plenty of room. Take that pressure off and get you hanging out with us in our mentoring sessions before your course starts. So I look forward to speaking with you soon. Take good care and we'll see you. Bye for now.